Hi, Rushrecap here. Today, I'm going to explain a sci-fi thriller movie called Super 8. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens in February 1979 at a steel factory in Lillian, Ohio. Elizabeth Lamb, one of the employees, has tragically died in an accident. Her passing has affected the whole community, especially her husband, Deputy Jackson, and their son, Joe. The scene then shifts to the poor boy mourning his mother's untimely death. He's playing on his favorite swing right outside his house. Just then, Louis Daynard's car pulls up in front of the porch. He's one of the employees who worked at the steel factory with Elizabeth. With a face full of guilt, Louis steps inside the house and attempts to meet Jackson. However, the latter forcibly removes him and places him in a police car. Fast forward to 4 months later, the air has changed and Joe is excitedly looking forward to his summer vacation. He plans to assist his best friend Charles making a Super 8 film for an upcoming festival. The film is about a zombie apocalypse and the protagonist is a detective investigating a series of zombie incidents connected to Charles making a Super 8 film for an upcoming festival. The film is about a zombie apocalypse, and the protagonist is a detective investigating a series of zombie incidents connected to a company called Romero Chemicals. Charles reveals that he has cast Alice Daynard as the female lead. She's none other than Louis' daughter and the most popular girl in school. Joe's face lights up when he hears Alice's name because it turns out he has a huge crush on her. That evening, Joe and Charles meet up with the rest of their crew, Carrie, Preston, and Martin. As the boys discuss their usual business, Alice arrives in her father's car. She initially refuses to let Joe inside as he's the deputy's son, and she doesn't have a driving license. But when he promises he won't complain to his father, she lets him take the back seat. The group then heads to the Lillian train station, where Charles plans to film a scene featuring Martin and Alice. As per the script, she has to convince him to leave town due to a zombie outbreak. The filming soon begins, and Alice becomes so immersed in her role that she begins crying. A few moments later, they hear the rumbling sounds of an oncoming train, and this excites Charles. He decides to use the train shot to enhance the production value of his movie. The group then resumes their filming, and during this, Joe notices a white truck approaching the tracks. Before he can warn others about it, the truck collides with the train, resulting in a massive derailment. An explosion also ensues, scattering the compartments all around. Meanwhile, Charles' Super 8 camera records everything, scattering the compartments all around. Meanwhile, Charles' Super 8 camera records everything, including the crash and the strange occurrences that follow. Amidst the chaos, Joe hears a loud pounding from one of the train compartments. The group also discovers strange white cubes scattered around the remains of the truck. Joe grabs one of the cubes, places it inside his pocket, and joins his friends in investigating the truck. Inside the vehicle, they find the body of their science teacher, Dr. Woodward. Joe notices a map in his hand, so he quickly retrieves it. Just then, the doctor comes to life and tells them to keep silent about what they've just witnessed. He warns that if the kids speak a word, they will come after their families and friends. Afraid of getting caught, the group grabs Charles' Super 8 camera and quickly drives away. Did they leave Dr. Woodward to die? Who cares? The next day, they drop off the film for development in a camera store. Joe promises to help Charles finish the movie, even offering to use his dad's video camera. However, the latter doubts that Alice will want to help after what happened last night. He believes that she's too scared to resume production with them, but Joe isn't going to let anything come in the way of their movie, so he heads to Alice's house to talk to her. As he tries to persuade her to come back, Louis appears at the scene. He tells Joe to stay away from his daughter or else he'll be in big trouble. Alice doesn't like her father's rude attitude towards her friend, so she decides to help Joe and his crew. In the next scene, the gang heads back to the train crash site to film. Joe notices that the train has Air Force markings, meaning it belonged to the military. Later, at a restaurant, he looks at the map they took from Dr. Woodward and sees a red line drawn across the country. He believes it is some kind of trail that leads to a hidden military base, but Charles warns him not to talk about the accident, or else they will all be killed. Meanwhile, Deputy Jackson visits the crash site to find some answers. The military's cleanup crew, led by General Nellick, refuses to tell him anything except that the cargo isn't dangerous. Jackson observes the government men collecting small white cubes and making plaster casts of some tire tracks on the ground. He knows something is going on, but they are just not telling him. Tracks on the ground. He knows something is going on, but they are just not telling him. He later goes to his office and reports to his senior, Sheriff Prout, but even the latter ignores him and simply asks him to go home and rest. That night, Sheriff Prout arrives at a gas station to refuel his car. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise coming from the bushes. When he goes to investigate, something pulls him into the darkness, and all we hear is his terrified scream. The gas station guy arrives soon after to check what's happening, but he's shocked to discover a badly crushed police car. He quickly heads inside to call 911, but an unseen force grabs him from behind and drags him away too. The next day, the town falls into chaos when the residents learn that Sheriff Prout has been found missing. His smashed-up car is found near the gas station with the windows completely shattered. Jackson summons the townspeople in the chapel and hears about more missing people, pets, and electrical devices, including ovens and generators. An old man also complains that his radio has been transmitting gibberish since some days ago. Curious, Jackson talks with his assistant privately and discovers that it is a military frequency emitting from a nearby water plant. He then has his officers tune their radios to the frequency and soon hears about something called Operation Walking Distance. Sounds boring. Meanwhile, Joe and the boys are filming a scene in front of Dr. Woodward's home, which is being cleared out by the military. Charles chose this location apparently to increase the production value of his film. Just then, Jackson arrives at the scene and scolds his son for not listening to him. He had told him not to befriend Louis's girl Alice. He then confiscates his video camera and locks him inside the car. Seeing the military clearing out Dr. Woodward's home, Jackson confronts General Nellick and demands answers. He also mentions hearing the words Operation Walking Distance in the radio frequency. This shocks Dr. Woodward's home. Jackson confronts General Nellick and demands answers. He also mentions hearing the words Operation Walking Distance in the radio frequency. This shocks the general, and he finally agrees to reveal what's going on. He asks Jackson to meet him in the evening at a nearby airfield. The latter obliges, and he excitedly heads to the said location, but as soon as he arrives, he's arrested and locked up inside a cell. Meanwhile, Alice visits Joe at his home and tries to convince him that her dad isn't a bad man. It turns out Louis was heavily drunk on that fateful morning. He eventually couldn't make it to work, so Elizabeth was ordered to take his shift. But since she wasn't used to his machinery, she made a mistake that ended up taking her life. This is the reason why Jackson can never forgive Louis. But Joe, who appears to be more understanding, says he never blamed Louis for the incident. Just then, his attention shifts to the strange white cube that he found at the crash site. It starts vibrating and shoots through the wall with such great force that it leaves a hole in it. This freaks Alice out, and she rushes back home where her drunk father's been waiting for her. It turns out Louis started drinking when his wife left him for another man. They then get into an argument about Mom, prompting Alice to escape on her bike in the middle of the night. Louis tries to go after her in his vehicle, but due to his drunken state, he ends up crashing. He regains consciousness sometime later when he hears Alice's terrified screams. In a shocking turn of events, the same creature from earlier appears out of nowhere and abducts the helpless girl. The next day, Charles and John, who are unaware of their friend's abduction, get their Super 8 camera fixed. They then examine the developed film and see glimpses of a strange creature emerging from one of the wrecked train cars. As they try to figure out what they saw, they hear loud air raid sirens. They step outside to find the town being evacuated, with everyone directed towards the local military base. Although shocked, Joe and Charles board a bus, along with other townspeople. Upon reaching the base, Joe tries to find his dad, but he instead comes across a terrified Louis. The latter reveals that his daughter was kidnapped by a creature, but no one believes him. Joe, who just saw the creature in their recordings, becomes shocked upon hearing this. Determined to rescue Alice, he gathers his friends and the town's camera store owner to help them get back into town. They then sneak out of the base and head towards Dr. Woodward's storage area at the school. Meanwhile, General Nellick is shown talking to a bedridden Woodward. During their conversation, it is revealed that Woodward was part of the team studying the creature. Back at the school, the kids find films, tapes, records, and notes from inside Dr. Woodward's storage area. From these materials, they learn that the creature landed on Earth in its sophisticated vessel in 1958, but it has been held by the military underground. General Nellick was determined to use it for military purposes. He subjected it to torture, but this only caused the creature to turn hostile towards humans. The group also discovers that the creature's ship contains technology that, when taken apart, turns into the small white cubes they found at the crash site. Because Dr. Woodward communicated with the creature, he developed a telepathic link with it. His notes reveal that due to the mistreatment by humans, the creature had become hostile towards him as well. As the kids try to find more, some soldiers burst inside and arrest them. The boys are then taken to the base on a military bus. While on their way, they hear a loud bang above their heads. Suddenly, the creature appears in front of them and starts attacking the soldiers. During the chaos, the driver gets killed and the bus crashes on the side of the road. Joe and his friends are luckily unharmed, and they manage to escape through the window. But the soldiers, including General Nellick, aren't so lucky, as the creature brutally finishes all of them. In the meantime, Jackson escapes his cell by tricking the guard and rendering him unconscious. He then learns from a kid about how Joe has escaped to the city to save Alice. This worries him, so he immediately finds Louis and takes him along to save their children. After a while, the duo finds themselves in a war zone with tanks and military weapons firing uncontrollably. It turns out that the chaos and destruction was caused by the alien creature. Joe and his friends seek refuge in a friend's home, but an explosion suddenly blows away the upper part of the house. This results in extensive injuries to Martin, so Charles decides to stay behind and help him. Meanwhile, Joe and Carrie rush to the cemetery to rescue Alice. Joe had learned about the cemetery garage from Dr. Woodward's notes, so he believes the creature has been hiding there. In the next scene, the two boys dodge the explosions and suddenly make it to the garage. They then break through a door and discover a large hole dug several stories deep. Climbing down, they stumble upon the creature's lair beneath the town's water tower. They find various mechanical parts, including items that had gone missing from the townspeople. Boy, there sure are a lot of vibrators in this stash. The boys also spot several individuals hanging from the ceiling, including the missing sheriff and Alice. But before they can rescue her, they catch a glimpse of the creature devouring another person. With time running out, Joe instructs Carrie to light the fireworks that they've brought along. The plan surprisingly works, and the creature gets distracted for a second. This allows the boys to rescue Alice and escape with her. However, they are unable to reach far as they soon come across a dead end. The creature then catches up to them and grabs Joe in its claws. But just as it's about to devour him, Joe speaks up. He confidently says that whatever happened to the creature was bad, and that some humans are really evil, but that doesn't mean it has to kill the entire population. Upon hearing all of this, the creature's eyes suddenly dilate, as if it seems to understand the kids' language. It then leaves them alone and flees into the darkness. Joe, Alice, and Carrie return to the surface and gather near the water tower. Just then, nearby mechanical objects are mysteriously drawn to the top of the tower. Truck trailers holding the white cubes also burst open, and the cubes start assembling around the tower's edges. During this time, Jackson and Louis reconcile with their children while the creature starts climbing up the tower. The mechanical objects and white cubes soon transform into a huge spaceship, and the creature boards it. The movie comes to a close as everyone watches the spaceship rise into the sky and head into the alien universe. There, they discover films, tapes, and notes revealing that the creature landed on Earth in 1958. Dr. Woodward had been working for the Air Force and was involved in studying the alien. The films show the creature being mistreated and experimented on by the military, which sought to harness its advanced technology. The creature's ship was dismantled, and its components were spread across various facilities. Over the years, the creature's frustration grew as it tried to rebuild its ship using its telekinetic powers, but was constantly thwarted by the humans. Dr. Woodward, who had developed a bond with the creature, eventually became sympathetic to its plight and started plotting ways to help it escape. Joe and his friends watched the footage, horrified by the cruelty inflicted on the creature. They pieced together that Dr. Woodward was trying to free the creature by causing the train crash, hoping it would allow the alien to gather the scattered components of its ship and leave Earth. Armed with this new understanding, Joe is more determined than ever to find Alice and help the creature complete its mission. As they prepare to leave, they encounter Louis, who has been frantically searching for Alice. Joe explains what they've learned, and despite his initial skepticism, Louis agrees to help them. The group heads to the cemetery, where they discover a network of underground tunnels that the creature has been using to move around unnoticed. They navigate the dark, eerie tunnels, their flashlights flickering and casting long shadows on the walls. In one of the tunnels, they find a room filled with strange devices and debris. Among the rubble, they spot several townspeople, including Alice, trapped in makeshift cages. The creature, sensing their presence, emerges from the shadows. It is a large, menacing being with powerful limbs and a fearsome appearance. Despite its frightening visage, Joe senses the creature's underlying desperation and pain. Joe steps forward, holding out his hands to show he means no harm. He explains to the creature that they understand its suffering and want to help it return home. The creature, recognizing Joe's sincerity, calms down and uses its telekinetic powers to release the captives. Alice, weak but unharmed, rushes into Joe's arms, grateful for his bravery. Just as they are about to leave, the military arrives, led by General Nellick. A tense standoff ensues, with Nellick ordering his men to capture the creature. Joe, standing protectively in front of the alien, pleads with Nellick to let it go, revealing the truth about the Air Force's experiments. Nellick, unmoved, orders his men to open fire. In a desperate bid to protect its newfound allies, the creature uses its telekinesis to create a shield around Joe and his friends. The military's bullets bounce harmlessly off the invisible barrier. Enraged, Nellick orders the deployment of heavier weaponry, but before they can act, the creature lifts a massive chunk of the tunnel ceiling, causing a cave-in that forces the military to retreat. With the immediate danger averted, the creature uses its powers to assemble the scattered components of its ship. The white cubes that Joe and his friends had seen earlier begin to glow and float, merging to form the hull of a sleek, otherworldly spacecraft. As the ship takes shape, the creature communicates with Joe through a series of images and emotions, expressing its gratitude and longing to return home. Joe, realizing that this is the moment of truth, tells the creature that it's time to leave. The creature, in a final act of goodwill, heals the injuries of the townspeople who had been trapped. It then enters its newly formed ship, which hums with energy and light. Joe, Alice, and the others watch in awe as the ship ascends through the tunnel, breaking through the surface and soaring into the sky. Back on the surface, the town of Lillian is left to grapple with the aftermath of the events. The military, forced to acknowledge their actions, agrees to a cover-up to protect the town from further scrutiny. General Nellick, facing disgrace, is reassigned, and a new sense of peace settles over Lillian. Joe and his friends return to their normal lives, but they are forever changed by their experiences. The bond between Joe and Alice deepens, and they continue to support each other through their grief and healing. The group completes their zombie film, dedicating it to Dr. Woodward and the creature that taught them about empathy and courage. The final scenes of the movie show the group at the film festival, their finished project playing on the big screen. The audience, unaware of the true events that inspired the film, applauds their creativity and hard work. Joe, watching the screen, feels a sense of closure and hope for the future. As the credits roll, a distant twinkling star in the night sky serves as a silent reminder of the extraordinary visitor who touched their lives and the enduring power of understanding and compassion. Thank you for watching Rushrecap. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you in the next one.